All right, let's jump right in. Welcome to This Explainer, where we're going to decode a literal encyclopedia of curiosities. We're going to uncover the hidden science behind everyday phenomena, unpack some genuinely brilliant business strategies, and explore these incredible moments in history and nature that are, quite frankly, hiding right in plain sight. If you're the kind of person who loves understanding how the world actually works beneath the surface, well, you are in the perfect place. Get ready, because we're about to totally change the way you look at the ordinary things around you.
Here's a quick roadmap of what we're covering today. First up, everyday science and illusions. Then, nature's hidden truths. Third, the business of success. And finally, history, culture, and survival. Let's get to it.
Kicking things off with Section 1, Everyday Science and Illusions, the Hidden Magic in Daily Life. We interact with some absolutely incredible engineering every single day without even realizing it. Take those little LCD writing tablets, the kind kids use that somehow never seem to need charging. It seems like magic, but if you look inside, it's just brilliant science. There are three key layers: a transparent layer, an opaque layer, and sandwiched right in the middle, a sticky liquid crystal film. When you press down with a stylus, that physical pressure actually changes the order of the clustaric liquid crystals. It causes them to reflect light, which your eyes see as a drawing. And then, when you hit that erase button, a tiny battery shoots a high-voltage electric field right through the circuit. That electric shock instantly snaps the liquid crystals back to their original state, wiping the display completely clean. It's a remarkably sophisticated piece of science tucked right into a simple toy.
Now, stepping from microscopic crystals up to macroscopic forces, imagine taking two perfectly ordinary books and interleaving their pages one by one. A page from the left book, a page from the right book, all the way through. If you try to pull them apart, you can't. In fact, even if you hook those books up to two cars, pulling them apart is virtually impossible. Why? It all comes down to friction and tension force. Every single overlapping page creates a tiny bit of friction. But the real secret is the tension. As you pull, the pages actually squeeze tighter against each other. It's a principle called force multiplication. Countless microscopic forces combining to create this massive, unbreakable grip.
Okay, think about your daily commute. You've definitely seen those little black dots running along the edges of your car's windshield, right? Now, most people just assume they're a design choice, or maybe they're to hide the glue. But what if I told you they have an actual, life-saving scientific purpose? It turns out it's a piece of absolute masterclass thermal engineering. When your car sits out in the hot sun, the edges of the windshield heat up way faster than the center. If that heat were to spread unevenly, the thermal stress would literally cause the glass to shatter, which obviously is incredibly dangerous if you're driving. So these dots are placed with precise scientific calculation. They're larger at the edge and progressively get smaller toward the center. This specific pattern absorbs the heat and distributes it completely evenly across the glass, dramatically reducing the stress and stopping the windshield from cracking.
And speaking of the things we see, our own eyes and modern cameras can play some wild tricks on us. For example, take those little transparent worms or dots you sometimes see floating in your vision when you look up at a bright blue sky. Those are floaters. As we age, the gel-like vitreous humor inside our eyes slowly shrinks, leaving behind tiny bits of cellular debris. When light enters your eye, that debris casts literal shadows directly onto your retina. Now, compare that biological illusion to a famous technological one. If you've ever seen a video of a helicopter flying, but its blades look completely frozen in midair, it's not a glitch. It's called the stroboscopic effect. It happens when the camera's frames per second perfectly matches the exact rotation speed of the helicopter's rotors.
Moving right along to Section 2, Nature's Hidden Truths, from mosquitoes to water scarcity.
Let's dive into some mind-bending facts about the natural world. So, here's a wild hypothetical for you. There are over 3,500 species of mosquitoes on Earth. Only about 100 of those species actually spread deadly diseases. But those 100 species have caused more casualties throughout history than all global wars combined. Knowing that horrific track record, you might think, hey, eradicating all mosquitoes entirely sounds like a fantastic idea. But what would actually happen to the global ecosystem if we did? Honestly, it would be a complete ecological disaster. Mosquitoes are a foundational pillar of the food web. Countless species of bats, birds, frogs, and dragonflies rely heavily on them for survival. But here's the part that really surprises people. Mosquitoes are essential pollinators for thousands of plant species. If we completely wipe them out, those plants would die off, the animals eating those plants would starve, and these highly interconnected food webs could totally collapse. So as much as we hate them, nature actually really needs them. Though a quick side note,
If you really want a mosquito-free life, you can always pack your bags and move to Iceland or Antarctica. Zero mosquitoes.
Okay, changing gears just a bit. You've definitely seen those viral videos of cats jumping 10 feet in the air because someone sneaked a cucumber behind them, right? Well, they aren't actually terrified of the vegetable itself. This is raw behavioral psychology. A cat's survival instinct is hardwired to identify long, thick, green objects on the ground as deadly, venomous snakes. It is a pure, reflexive panic meant to save their lives. Although apparently once the panic wears off, they usually realize it's just food.
Now, I want you to really think about a specific number, 0.2%. We're always taught in school that water covers 71% of the Earth, right? But that's only the surface area. If you somehow scooped up every single drop of water on the planet and rolled it into a giant sphere, the actual volume of that water would only equal 0.2% of the Earth's total volume.
And when we break down that tiny fraction, the numbers get even crazier. 97.5% of it is salt water in the oceans. Of the remaining 2.5% that's freshwater, almost all of it is trapped in glaciers, ice caps, or buried deep underground. The actual accessible freshwater in our lakes, rivers, and reservoirs, the water we need for drinking, farming, and basically all daily life, is a microscopic sliver. It's just 0.05%. It really puts into perspective how incredibly precious and rare our usable water supply actually is.
All right, into Section 3, the business of success, origin stories, and brilliant strategies. Let's pivot to some sheer human hustle. We usually only see billionaires at their absolute peak, but their origin stories are fascinating. Back in 1928, Dhirubhai Ambani was working at a petrol pump in Yemen. He realized the local silver coins were actually worth more melted down as raw silver than their face value. So he just started melting them and selling them for a massive profit, at least until the government noticed the coin shortage. He later returned to India to build a massive business empire. Or look at Elon Musk, who coded and sold his first video game for $500 at age 13. At 15, Bill Gates and Paul Allen built a traffic analyzer program called Trafo Data, scoring a $2,000 contract way before Microsoft existed. And Jeff Bezos? Before starting his massive e-commerce empire in a garage in 1994, he spent time working at McDonald's, making just $3 a day.
Now, if you want a masterclass in business strategy, look at what Amul did. When they decided to enter the butter biscuit market, they were going up against a massive incumbent brand called Good Day. Instead of launching a direct attack, which is risky and often backfires, Amul executed a totally brilliant, silent strategy. They just released ads highlighting that their biscuits were made with real butter and had zero vegetable oil. They never named names. They just showed a biscuit that looked vaguely similar to their competitors. Without firing a single direct shot, they completely disrupted the market just by letting the consumers connect the dots themselves.
And sometimes brands just win big by doing the right thing. Take the incredible story of a guy named Hector. He was strapped for cash, so he proposed to his girlfriend inside a KFC. Naturally, someone filmed it, the video went viral, and people on the internet actually started mocking him, calling it a poor man's proposal. But then, KFC stepped in. They sent out a message trying to find the couple so they could send some gifts, and that sparked an unbelievable corporate snowball effect. A bank stepped up and cleared all of the couple's loans. Audi offered them a car for their honeymoon. McDonald's paid for an all-expenses-paid honeymoon to Cape Town. Huawei threw in phones. Uber offered free rides. What started as people being cruel online turned into a massive, life-changing sponsorship for this couple.
Which brings us to our final stop, Section 4, History, Culture, and Survival. High stakes and heritage.
Okay, let's start this section with a literal life-or-death scenario. A live grenade lands right at your feet. What do you do? Well, action movies always show the hero picking it up and throwing it back. Absolutely do not do that. Once the pin is pulled, a grenade generally has a 4-second fuse. By the time it lands at your feet, you realistically have exactly 1 second left. You cannot pick it up and throw it in 1 second. Instead, you need to use that single second to run 4 to 5 meters away and instantly lay completely flat on the ground. When it detonates, the deadly shrapnel flies outward and upward. By lying flat, you drastically minimize the surface area of your body exposed to the blast, giving you the best possible chance of survival.
Taking a deep breath and looking at something completely different, but just as precise. This is sashimono, an incredible Japanese woodworking technique. Instead of using iron nails or industrial glue like we do in modern construction, sashimono relies entirely on carving these highly complex, precise interlocking grooves right into the wood.
The pieces fit together flawlessly, almost like a puzzle. The result is that furniture and even entire houses built this way can literally last for centuries. Plus, if a joint ever gets damaged, you just pull it apart and replace that one piece without destroying the whole structure. It's sustainable, durable engineering at its absolute finest.
Now, if you've ever heard the famous celebration song Jamalo, you might not know its incredibly high-stakes origin story. Back in 1889, the British built a railway bridge in Sukhur Sindh that was notoriously dangerous. In fact, it was so terrifying that not a single train driver would agree to cross it. So, they offered a deal to a condemned prisoner named Jamalo. Drive a train across this bridge, and you walk away a free man. After 2 intense months of training, Jamalo successfully made the crossing. His family and the Sindhi people were so completely overjoyed by his survival and his newfound freedom that they erupted in celebration, singing Jamalo. And today, that name still lives on as a powerful anthem of joy and survival.
To wrap up our history dive, let's look at the global impact of just one nation. What would the world look like without India's historical and technological contributions? It's pretty staggering. Geopolitically, the massive military support of Indian forces for the British during World War II was absolutely crucial in preventing a potential victory for Hitler's Germany. Today, India is a critical supplier of highly affordable medicines to massive markets like the US and the UK. Culturally, sugar was first crystallized in India, so imagine a world of no cakes or sweets as we know them, not to mention a devastating lack of culinary spices. Technologically, India gave us the invention of shampoo, the USB drive, the ancient practice of yoga, and even the discovery of water on the moon. But the absolute most foundational contribution of all, the concept of the number 0 in mathematics.
Which perfectly tees up this final thought. Without 0, I can't even imagine what the world would be like. It is the bedrock of modern mathematics, computing, and all engineering. It's the perfect example of how one seemingly simple concept, hidden right there in the fabric of history, completely revolutionized human existence. So I'll leave you with this question. The next time you look at a book, a car windshield, or even a simple glass of water, what other massive historical truths do you think are hiding right in plain sight? Thanks so much for exploring this explainer with me today. Keep learning, stay curious, and I'll catch you on the next one.